the last episode we looked at the industries around Stanhope, the mines, the quarries, the smelting mills that made a railway here not just useful but essential. And all of that traffic had to go somewhere. And in this episode we'll begin following the Stanhope and Tyne Railway itself, starting with one of its most dramatic features, the Crawley Incline. Look, we can get a view up the incline here. So this is right at the start, looking up. Whose idea was it again, Phil, to start walking up inclines?
I think it was mine again.
We've seen the bottom end, we've seen the wagon ways and the tramways, we've seen all the way up to the smelting mills, we've seen around the quarry and the Lane Ends quarry, which is where this railway was heading for. But this next section, as we're leaving Stanhope on this railway, this is where it really starts to embrace the remote aspect of where we are, because it's going out into the wilderness now. It's not just going out into the wilderness, it's going up and over the wilderness, because we're starting to climb up the first of the inclines that we're going to see on this video. This is the Crawley Incline, as far as the Crawley engine house. Look at this, just halfway up the incline, look. We've got a junction here, we've got another line. So this is from, what's the name of this quarry, Phil?
I think it was Asher's quarry, and I'm not sure if it was a later edition or what. But it looks like it went under the road. It obviously went under the bridge, but I can't see from here whether it's still there or not. I'll have a look.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but it's not on the early maps.
No.
No,
It's slightly later.
Yeah. That's weird, that, isn't it? Like you just said, have you ever come across an incline with a junction?
No, but I was thinking if the incline mechanisms were running this section and then that were abandoned, then they came in here, maybe most of the equipment and wires could have been, I suppose, put over and maybe ran down here. You can't imagine there's a facility to split an incline ropeway.
There must have been, because there's still both lines showing in use.
Oh.
That's still where, you know, that's the nerve centre, isn't it?
How did they do that?
So this is the bridge of that spur that went...
Ash Quarry, yeah, it's surprisingly been all earthed over.
So that's where that line goes, you know, that deviates from the incline under there, look. I wonder if the bridge is under there, Phil.
Yep.
It's obviously earthed over, isn't it? It's infilled now.
It's probably because it goes in someone's private land there. Look, can you see someone's got some chairs sat there, and it looks like the back of someone's nice hallway, so they don't want people sort of going through.
We have still got, though, look, this is the top of the bridge here, look. We have still got the buttresses on the front, look. See? Two there, one up the other end. Phil, this has even got a bridge mark on, look. ASS, DFT ASS /2. You might have noticed the shortness of breath, but let's give you some figures on this Crawley Incline. 1/2 mile long. What gradients did I say it was?
1 in 8.
1 in 8.
Which is equivalent to sheep pastures in Derbyshire.
And that's at its most severe. And there is a quick on this first incline, isn't there?
Not far ahead, yep. S&D.
How are you seeing that?
I'm not. I'm looking at this though, which is a rail joint. Very old look.
What's that say on there? It's so weathered it's...
I can't tell. So it's really interesting to look down this incline and see that split. When you're actually here and you're looking at it, you're taking the severity, the surroundings, how steep it is, and all of a sudden you've got this bizarre split right down at the bottom. If only we had a photograph to see what happened there.
Can you get a feeling on the camera just of how steep this incline is? That lorry's on the road, obviously. Let's give you some perspective. So this is Hog Hill Tunnel, part way up the incline. 120 yards long. Is there a date stone on there? Let's have a look. There's something on the top of it. I can't quite see it from here. Yeah, 1833, it says. 190 odd years old, this tunnel then. It's very, very, I'm sorry to keep drawing comparisons, it's just, obviously we've done a lot of the Cromford and High Peak, but it just looks so similar in design. It's the same era, isn't it? Give or take a few years.
It's a shame you can't see how it's hewn out, how it's been... Has that been sprayed with concrete?
I was just going to say that, yeah. Look. It's weird. Touch it, Phil, is it soft?
Pardon? No, I don't know.
Look at that. Just found that in the tunnel. It looks like one of those rollers. What are they called? You know, that the cables sit on? So we've just come round to the other end of the tunnel here, so we should be stood right above the tunnel portal here.
Yeah, it's still steep as well.
Right down there, look. Look at that for a cutting. And that just epitomises the severity of the climb up here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. It needs a bit of a rope assistance.
And at the top of Crawley Incline, we find the Crawley engine. And look, this is where it all sat. Now there is the house there at the top of Crawley Incline. I don't know if that's the engine house or not. It is on the maps, that, Phil. There's quite a few buildings here alongside the line, because look, we're stood on the line now. And if you can see it, we'll just take you up here and show you the incline. But we can definitely see the building that's still there. That's the private dwelling. That's definitely showing on the old maps.
Yeah, it's definitely on the side. It doesn't look old in any real shape or form, does it? It's not like it's an old building, they've put an extension on it and you can hardly tell that it was the old one. It just doesn't look that old to me.
So the climbing doesn't stop when we get to Crawley, to the top of the Crawley Incline, because we get the second of the 3 inclines that we're taking up to the summit of the line. And this next one, the Weatherhill Incline, now this goes as far as the Weatherhill engine house. About a mile long, this one.
Yeah, I'd say it looks about that, doesn't it?
It doesn't look that much of a gradient from here, does it, really?
Just a bit further up.
Yeah, it definitely seems to escalate, doesn't it?
It gets steeper up where the lorry is up at the top there, or whatever, it's coming down, look, it gets really steep.
Gradients to this, we've got gradients of between 1 in 21 and 1 in 13. So nowhere near as steep as the one that we've just walked up. Here on the Weatherhill Incline, tragedy struck in 1834. A shackle broke on wagons carrying more than 40 people. They ran away down the steep track, and a worker at Crawley had to make a split-second decision to divert the runaway wagons into a siding already full of other trucks, preventing them from continuing down the incline towards Lane Head. In the crash, a man and a boy lost their lives. Standing here now, with the quiet landscape all around, it's a stark reminder of the dangers of these early railways and the human cost hidden in their history. And just to the right here, we've got the reservoir, and we can see that on the maps, and that's gonna be to feed the engine house, isn't it?
Probably that one, yeah. I'm not sure what fed the next one, because that's uphill. Obviously, gravity fed the water down to this bottom one, yeah. Crawley engine house. Hey, looking at these, what's these all about?
I was going to say, I noticed these.
Are these what the pulley sat on?
Possibly.
It's what the pulley sat on in the middle of the track, isn't it? I think, you know. And then they had it must be something to do with the base of those, because they're right in the middle.
So is this single track or double track?
I'm sure it was single, then it went into double, sharing a third rail up the incline. Some of them did. I don't think everyone did that.
But look, you can see the stones all the way along, can't you?
Yeah, so I don't know what it is. Can't see anything to say that anything's been fixed on it, though, to be honest.
Yeah, there's 2.
There's, oh yeah, there and there is, yeah. It's got grass in it. So yeah, I wonder if that'll I wonder if they put it to stop the wire digging in, like they did at Whaley Bridge. You can see bricks going along so that the wire doesn't disappear and drop, you know.
I tell you what, I know we said at the start when we started filming today, this is a very remote and barren place. I've just spotted something, Phil.
Oh, God, we've just been on about them.
I was hoping to see one of these a lot. It's the Stockton and Darlington Railway.
I don't know, but I think you asked me earlier, he says, I wonder if we're going to miss one of them posts, and he was probably actually right next to this one.
We've walked past this already.
Have we? Yeah, we didn't see it.
So it's Stockton
and Darlington the railway. Surely that R is a railway, no?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's an R for railway. I'm just trying to see, is there some more indentations there that's weathered?
We should have paid more attention to the one we saw intact further down.
Yeah. I wonder what year that
Well, surely when they first built it.
No, because it wasn't built as the Stockton and Darlington Railway.
Oh,
See,
yeah,
that's
true.
That's another something, yeah, that came later.
Yeah.
But it does feel very remote up here, and we've not even finished the climbing, so this goes even higher. Again, just to go back to that initial point, they've gone to some efforts to get that limestone. Surely there must have been a better way to access Stanhope and get that out.
Yeah, because if you compare this to the High Peak Trail, the end game of the High Peak Trail seems very plausible what they was doing, you know, to link up the two industrial areas.
Yeah, 2 canals.
Whereas this one's just like going quite a lengthy procedures to get down to the rich pickings down in the valley bottom here, and you can't help but think with Durham and North Yorkshire being a so-called land of iron, why would they go to the length of having to come all the way and build all the toil away and build all the way down here? It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Surely it's not the only place.
Yeah, that's what you
is.
sort of think that, don't you?
The Stanhope and Tyne Railway was built out of necessity, but it wasn't initially financially secure. One of the reasons was the way it was constructed. The company relied heavily on way leaves rather than securing full parliamentary approval for land acquisition. Instead of owning the land outright, the railway paid landowners for permission to cross their estates. At first, this seemed like a clever shortcut, faster and cheaper than going through the Acts of Parliament, but it soon became a trap. Landowners realised how essential the railway was to the local industry, and many began demanding higher and higher payments just to let the trains cross their land. The cost mounted, income remained modest, and the company struggled to keep the line running. By the 1840s, the combination of high construction costs, unreliable revenue, and ever-increasing way-leave payments brought the railway to the brink of collapse. In the end, this pioneering railway survived not because it was profitable, but because it was vital to the industrial life of Weardale. By 1841, the Stanhope and Tyne Railway had gone bust, and much of what we'll see today was abandoned. The eastern half of the line remained in use, but the western section out here near Stanhope lay silent. That changed when the Derwent Iron Company opened an ironworks at Consett, which needed huge amounts of limestone as flux for iron making. To supply the ironworks, they took over the western part of the railway from 1842 and operated it themselves. From 1845, the Stockton and Darlington Railway took over the operations, making improvements along the way, including removing some of the original inclines by creating deviations to make the line easier to run. The line that had once struggled under way leaves and financial pressure now found a new purpose, carrying stone and minerals for a growing industrial powerhouse. That's quite a view, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting windier as well every time we move to the next stage.
It is. I think that's it for the drone for the time being. Oh, get off the road. Just up here was the Weatherhill engine at the top of the incline. I think it's just around the corner. Phil, looking at the map, but you can see that the line kinked quite severely around to the right.
Yep.
Here.
So is this flat now then, isn't it? Don't we get a flat section?
No, it keeps on climbing.
Is it? So that looks a bit flat. If you want to know how barren it is here, just look over there.
Right, you said it was flat, so I've just had to get my notes out. The gradient from here to Parkhead, is it right in the distance?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's that far. 1 in 57. Not really that much, is it? Inclines that we're used to discussing, I don't think I've come across. Look at these timbers in the floor, Phil.
Yeah, I just seen them. I wonder if these are part of the engine house, where the pulley system and stuff perhaps went.
Something part of the infrastructure, isn't it?
It's quite hefty as well, look.
So we have turned the corner, and yeah, we had. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's what.
Isn't that a concrete base there, look, Paul?
We had something on the right-hand side, yeah.
There, look.
Yeah, that ties in with that. Something on the right-hand side on the corner. And then the engine house, I think it was over here. So that could be something to do with the pulley. Maybe that's a channel. Could it be? Could it be channeling the ropes?
Isn't it?
Look at the things for the snowdrift. These are old sleepers, look. Now, the Weatherhill engine house has long since vanished. I understand it was torn down as it was regarded as no longer safe, but historic photos show just how imposing it once was. Remarkably, the engine itself survives and can be seen now in the National Railway Museum in York. Built in 1833 by Hawks and Company, this large stationary steam engine powered the winding drum and haulage rope on the incline. After the original cylinder burst in the 1890s, it was replaced by one made by Thomas Murray and Company of Chesterley Street. The Weatherhill engine continued working here until 1919, when it was finally replaced by a more modern design.
There's a lot of bricks strewn around here, look.
There is multiple buildings on the maps. I mean, could have changed over time. It's got something here, look. There's foundations for something up there.
Even there looks building structure there, look. Look, there's the frame of something here. You can see a good shot of the ink. It doesn't look very steep.
What did I say? It was 1 in 57. It's not long either, is it? Look, is that Parkhead? Yeah, because you can see the other line coming off there. Look, can you see the ridge?
Can. That's right. Yeah.
Now that is a line that looks like it's got some remains worth exploring.
Another remote one, to say the least.
So here we are at Parkhead. This is the summit. This is the highest point of this line. That wind's dropped, Phil.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, isn't it? I suppose because we're not on the top of that escarpment with wind coming at us from each side. Look, it's not so bad here, is it?
Possibly. But we can see where we've just been walking, just over there, look, at that last one at Weatherhill, and it doesn't really look like any kind of gradient, really, does it, if truth be told?
Flat. Looks flat.
The Stanhope and Tyne Railway was never intended to carry passengers, and when it did, it was often in a very informal way. Miners were commonly carried on coal trains, and some stopping places had no facilities at all. There was never a consistent passenger service along the full length of the line. Here at the remains of Parkhead, and at places like Crawley and Waskerley, passenger use was limited, practical and short-lived. We're reminded that this was always a mineral railway first, with people travelling only when the railway could accommodate them. Wondered what that was. Hello. You're a very friendly cat.
You're very friendly, aren't you? Good parrot as well.
Hello. Parkhead station cat. He likes your microphone, Phil. God, he's got a pair on him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We don't need to get some filming done though, cat.
Goodness me. Really friendly, aren't you? I wonder what it was as well.
I thought it was an unruly child coming up behind us. Dolph Doolittle, I think. I can't remember the altitude of this place now. Now, I did read, I don't know, I've not fact-checked this, and I don't know if it still is a current piece of information, but this was the highest railway point in England.
Really?
I'm sure we've been somewhere else that's claimed.
I thought that the one near Bowes is the highest. There's a big sign at the side of the A66, you can see it below, and you're saying the high. Oh, maybe that's just that.
Bowes?
Bowes, yeah, between Bowes and where the A66 goes across.
Oh, yeah,
there's a great big sign there. Stainmore Summit. But is that the summit of that line, or supposed to be the highest bit in England? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll check that out. But look, just there. I mean, there's a lot to unpack on the maps here because we got a station. Well, we touched on the passenger things here. There's more ruins of buildings here. We obviously had. This is the top of an incline, so we had the engine house. Now, on the maps over here, just on our right-hand side, we've got annotated depot, Parkhead depot. I think some more coal drops here as well, is it, Phil?
Yeah, it looks like I'm a bit some sort of tipping point. I wonder what this was then.
That's what depot. I immediately, my mind went to like a maintenance depot or something.
Yeah, but
you know, but is it a depot, like a coal depot?
It looks like they might have had a shelf and a line just running along here actually. Well, you've got your snow walls there, so there's obviously something going on here, or they wouldn't have gone to the trouble of putting them up.
So there's the old station house there. It is now a tea room and cafe, but I'm just rechecking the maps, Phil, and now I'm not seeing an engine house up here. I'm now questioning myself.
Oh, it's just too flat for my liking. I can't see why you'd need an engine house either side of this place.
It is a junction, look. The line just coming in here. And we'll show you where that goes now. Now it does flatten out. When I say flatten out, it doesn't flatten out as in it's completely level. But it is a gentle downhill gradient. Now there's a little bit more going on from here, isn't there, Phil? Because what have we got? One of our favourite words.
Deviations.
Deviations. And it was at the later date that this line was kind of realigned. It was made more friendly. And they've just cut a corner out over here, haven't they? They've made it more friendly for locomotives. From Parkhead, the line begins a gradual descent towards Waskerley, and it's here that the deviations really matter. From the air, you can clearly see how the railway was eased and adjusted over time. This section falls gently around 1 in 80, all the way down to meeting slacks. The sharp curves on this section were ironed out in the 1840s. Hopefully someone with local knowledge can fill in some gaps here with the original alignment and the presence of what looks like another engine house or brake house just east of Parkhead. We can see this on the maps. Now beyond meeting slacks, the character of the line changes once again, and the descent towards Waskerley reaches gradients of up to 1 in 35, steep enough to require another engine house to keep everything under control. So is that the old alignment in there?
Yeah. Seems to follow the telegraph poles.
I don't think I'll ever get bored of seeing stuff like this. I mean, it's very, very weathered. You can just about make out the S and D R. Just to mention, the path that now follows the route of this railway we've been travelling up is called the Waskerley Way. Well worth knowing if you don't mind a bit of a gradient on a bike. And Waskerley is exactly where we'll pick things up in the next episode, because there are more deviations to unravel and a long, abandoned incline waiting to be explored. The Nanny Myers incline, or is that Nanny Mayers? We'll find that out on the next episode. One more thing before we wrap up this episode. We're not native to this part of the world, as you can probably tell, and this railway has been a steep learning curve in every sense. There are layers of history here, and no doubt things we've missed. So if you do know more, please do add it in the comments. And as always, don't forget to be kind. Thanks to everyone who has watched these first 2 episodes, and thanks for Phil for his input, his BDI and great company. And thanks to my channel members and anyone who supports the channel. Don't forget to give it a like and a subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next part. Ta-ra!